When you sent over Waswa's story, I was immediately drawn in. This journey of his finding a new home and purpose in an unfamiliar place, it just felt, I don't know, so powerful.
Yeah, no, it's
And you mentioned it spans 3 harvest seasons, right?
right.
You're really curious to see how things unfold.
Yeah, it's a remarkable story. And you're right, the time frame itself is significant, I think. 3 harvest seasons. That's not just about the passing of time, is it? It suggests a cycle of growth and change and integration with the land, don't you think?
Absolutely.
We see this reflected, I think, right from Waswa's arrival in the village, how he just kind of, steps right in.
From the Zamani videos on YouTube and the transcript you sent over, I get the sense that Waswa isn't just trying to get by. He's really actively embracing this new life.
Exactly. Yeah. And the villagers' warm welcome seems to play a crucial role in that. I love that detail about each morning being like, what is it, a gentle caress of dawn for Waswa? It paints such a hopeful picture, doesn't it,
It does.
of new beginnings.
Yeah, it's almost like the village itself is embracing him,
Yeah.
offering him like a fresh start.
Yeah.
And then there's the villagers' willingness to share their knowledge with him, teaching him their ancient agricultural practices.
Mm.
That really resonated with me.
Hmm.
I think it speaks to the power of community and how sharing traditions can kind of, I don't know, bridge cultural divides.
Well, and what's fascinating here is it's not just about practical
Right.
skills. It's the villagers are really inviting him to connect with their way of life, their history, their relationship with the land. And speaking of the land, the sources describe Waswa's connection to the land as, well, incredibly profound, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. It's almost like he's not just farming, he's becoming part of the landscape. There's that one beautiful description of his work as a dance of sweat and soil.
Oh, yeah, I love
It
the
goes way beyond simple survival, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It really suggests a deep, almost spiritual connection. It's like he's learning to, I don't know, read the language of the fields, to understand the nuances of nature's rhythms.
I love that imagery. And the way they describe the colors of the landscape changing throughout the seasons, kaleidoscopic bursts, and a golden tapestry during harvest,
Mm.
it creates such a vivid picture of the African landscape
Hmm.
and how deeply intertwined this community is with its natural surroundings.
Right.
It makes you wonder, does that connection to the land amplify his sense of belonging? Or does it make him miss his old home even more?
That's a great question. I think it's likely a bit of both, honestly. While the land provides him this sense of peace and purpose, the beauty of it might also stir those feelings of nostalgia, you know? Remind him of what he left behind. We see this a little bit later in the transcript when Waswa finds himself gazing down the road, hoping to see, a familiar face. But each time, his heart sinks when it's not someone he knows. It's a poignant reminder that, adapting to a new life doesn't erase the past, does it?
No, it
It
doesn't.
just becomes woven into the fabric of who we are, I
Mhm.
think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that push and pull, that tension of wanting to embrace the new, but still holding on to those pieces of the familiar. I think that's something we can all relate to in a way.
Absolutely. It's a universal human experience. And in Waswa's case, it seems that the rhythm of village life plays a crucial role in kind of helping him, navigate that tension.
The communal aspects, you mean?
Yes, exactly. The shared labor, the laughter in the fields, the meals together, it all points to that deep sense of community, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sociologists often talk about the importance of social capital, those
Yeah.
networks of relationships and support that we build within a community. And I think Waswa's story really highlights how powerful that is.
It really does. It makes me think about those market trips, which the sources describe as, what was it?
Oh, yeah.
Pilgrimages and testaments to their collective labor.
Right.
I mean, it's not just about buying and selling, is it? It's about that connection, that belonging,
Yeah.
contributing to something larger than yourself.
Exactly. And those shared experiences, I think, are really essential in Waswa's journey of integration. He's not just an observer, he's an active participant in the life of the village.
Okay, but here's something I'm grappling with. While the sources emphasize, this beauty and harmony of village life, I can't help but wonder if it's a little idealized. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Don't you think there might be challenges too? Adapting to a new culture,
Hmm.
learning new ways of doing things. It can't be all, sunshine and roses, can it?
That's a valid point. And the sources we have really do focus on those positive experiences. But realistically, there would have been difficulties, wouldn't there? I mean, adjusting to a new environment, navigating potential language barriers, maybe even facing moments of loneliness or frustration. I think those are all part of the acculturation process.
Right. It makes Waswa's resilience even more impressive, don't you think?
Mm.
He's not just accepting his new reality. It's almost like he's actively choosing to find that meaning and purpose within it. And it's not just about external changes, right?
Yeah.
There seems to be a real internal transformation happening in him as well.
Yeah, you're picking up on something really important there. I think the sources describe Waswa's roots, how do they put it, growing deep into the soil of his new life. It's a powerful metaphor, isn't it,
Yeah,
for those psychological and emotional shifts he's undergoing.
definitely. And later on, there's that really evocative description of his gratitude, how it's
Hmm.
swelling like a river in flood. It's like his emotional world is, I don't know, expanding somehow, becoming more connected to the land and the people around him.
It suggests that he's moving beyond simply adapting.
Right.
He's really starting to thrive within this new environment.
But it's interesting, though. This sense of belonging comes after, a whole series of losses. He had
Hmm.
to leave his home, his familiar surroundings, his people. And yet, through those losses, he finds a new kind of connection, a new sense of purpose.
Right. It speaks to that idea that sometimes, we find ourselves in the most unexpected ways. It's not always a straight path, is it?
No, it's not.
And often it's those detours that lead us to the most meaningful destinations.
That reminds me of a quote I read recently. It said that life isn't about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself.
Hmm.
And I think Waswa's story really embodies that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He's not just discovering who he is in this new place. He's actively shaping his identity, his
Mhm.
purpose, his sense of belonging.
I think that's a brilliant insight, really. And it brings us to, I think, a crucial question here. What does this mean for us? Listening to Waswa's story from afar, how can we apply these lessons, to our own lives?
It's funny, isn't it? We often think about resilience as bouncing back from setbacks. But Waswa's story, I think, highlights a different aspect.
Mm.
That ability to adapt
Hmm.
and evolve and find those new sources of strength, and meaning in places you wouldn't expect.
It is. That's a key takeaway for me as well. It's about embracing change, even when it's unplanned or uncomfortable. Waswa reminds us that a lot of times growth happens outside our comfort zones.
And it's not just about individual resilience either. The villagers' willingness to embrace him, share their knowledge and traditions, I think highlights how crucial community is too.
Oh, absolutely. We are by nature social creatures.
Right.
We thrive on connection, on feeling like we're part of something bigger. And I think Waswa's story just illustrates so beautifully how those connections can form, even across, cultural differences.
Think about it. This man arrives in a village where everything is unfamiliar. I mean, the language, the customs, the way of life.
Mhm.
And yet he finds acceptance, support, and ultimately a sense of purpose. It makes you wonder if sometimes we overcomplicate this whole idea of belonging. Maybe it's not about fitting in perfectly, but finding a place where you can contribute, where your presence is valued.
You've hit on something really insightful there. It's not about erasing our differences. It's about finding that common ground. Those shared experiences, that sense of collective purpose that binds us together.
And you know what else strikes me? We spend so much time, I think, trying to figure out who we are, where we belong, what our purpose is. But Waswa's journey, I think, suggests that maybe it's not about searching for those answers in some, predetermined way.
Right.
Maybe it's about just being open to the unexpected, to the possibility that our purpose might, reveal itself.
Yeah.
The most surprising of places.
Yeah, it's about embracing those detours, those unplanned turns, recognizing that sometimes, those unexpected paths lead us to exactly where we need to be. And that brings us back to that question you asked earlier. What does this all mean for us? How can we apply Waswa's story to our own lives?
I think it's a call to action in a way, an invitation to be more open, I think, to new experiences. Step outside those comfort zones and recognize that growth and belonging can often be found in the most unexpected places.
Yeah, and it's a reminder, I think, too, to cultivate those connections. Seek out those communities where we feel supported and valued. And remember that our individual journeys are often intertwined with the journeys of those around us.
Yeah. So as you go about your day, your week, think about the lessons I think we've uncovered in Waswa's story. Think about the power of resilience, the importance of community, and that possibility of finding purpose in those unexpected places. What new experiences are calling to you? What steps can you take to nurture those connections that bring meaning to your life?
Because ultimately, isn't that what it's all about? Finding those places, those people, those experiences that make us feel, truly alive. connected,
Yeah.
and a part of something bigger than ourselves.
Beautifully put. And on that note, a huge thank you to you for joining us on this deep dive into Waswa's incredible story.
Yeah.
We hope you found it as inspiring and thought-provoking as we did. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.